Alrighty, so this is first of many attempts to finally get this done. So bear with me if it's terrible. Just gonna go over what we've seen so far here. I'll start with the monthly chart here. This is our trading range. Trading range we've looked above, looked below, traded mostly with inside. So this is the most important range to me that I see currently still. We have this huge excess on the bottom. We have very little to no excess on the all-time high. As you can see, we're sniffing at that now. Look at us one time framing, 1, 2, 3, 4, straight up. No real give back. This is a stronger move than what we had the first time we touched and went before the big sell-off. So something I'm definitely looking for. See if we can get up here, get some excess up here, and then we want to see if we'll come back into this range, because if we come back into this range, this here is very, very realistic to happen again. But until then, we're definitely going to get to our all-time high, maybe even this big massive 3,000 number here, depending on what old Trump has to tweet about. Next one here is your weekly. Again, there's my trading range. Looked below, came up, looked above, came back down, looked below. Massive excess. That's really good to see. This is a huge buy opportunity. Obviously, I didn't take it because who's buying off this? You'd have to be pretty brave. But as you see, we come up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times before we finally broke. You can see here we got a bit of a firecracker effect. You have these 1, 2, lots of stops put right in here. This came through, got the stops, wasn't able to get to here, which obviously we would have more stops here. We rebounded again there, sorry. This is a bit interesting here because we had quite the excess here, which I thought might have been a turn for us, but we only looked and came right back up, leaving good excess on the bottom of this weekly here. This is still my most favorite part of the chart because this is a weekly gap. You will not see weekly gaps hold ever for any amount of time. It just does not happen. Last time we had a weekly gap, where was it here? We had a good one. Can't remember where it was. Shit, it was one of these in here anyways. Gapped up, came right back through, and then it was pretty awesome from then on. As you can see, no excess here on the all-time high. There's nothing here that would make us think that we weren't going to come back through. It's same as this. Same as the very first time we made the all-time high before we sold off that first time. No excess at all, right? So this move was predictable that it would eventually come back. You got the excess here, came back up, excess here. You know what I mean? It's just boom, boom, boom. It's just constantly coming and going. But there's no excess here. So something we're going to see and look for is if we get excess up here and then we start to come back down, because that could be the exhaustion that we're looking for to see the market turn. Let me pull up the daily here. No, that's the monthly again. There's our daily. So here's the daily. Again, the big green box is the trading range. You got good excess there. Not spectacular excess here. Is this the daily? Yeah, you got the big gap here. As you see, it's been a pretty steady move up. This hasn't been too crazy. A lot of people are taking this as this is just going straight up parabolic, but it's not. It's actually pretty nice little build up here going towards the all-time high. It's kind of the main reason I haven't been very bearish at all is because I just don't see this as being overextended on the long side at all. Not yet, at least. 2,900. Not hard to tell that was an important number for us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days just to finally break over it. Tried it right away. As soon as we broke over, tried immediately to come back through. Tried again. Finally broke through, and look what we did. We left excess here on the daily, and that was the turn. You had the point here, and that was it. Off we go. Still not great here, but there's excess, right? But it's not we're not looking for the turn though, which is the difference. This, you're looking for the turn. You're looking for this to come back below 2900 and come back towards the trading range. This excess stopped that from happening. There was, once you saw this move became very unlikely. Oops. This was far more likely of a move to happen, and that's what we're seeing now. Have your all-time high there. Don't pay too much attention to where the line is. I'm just drawing it based off of way back when. When was that? October. Yeah, so right there. It's not, obviously it's not perfect. It's just giving me an idea of where we went. Same idea happened here though. When you look at this, look at how this worked. 2900. Bounced around it, came below it, bounced around it, boom. Big excess right here. And that's when we made our all-time high. This is not great excess for an all-time high. This is good excess now. If we had never came to the all-time high and we say we came here and then dropped off, that'd be more realistic, but this is not excess on the all-time high. Look how close it is to here. It's just not much there, right? It hasn't been tested enough and it hasn't exhausted enough for it to actually be a turning point in my mind. But you could tell here, right? We had this excess, it came back down. You had absolutely no excess here. Came back up, you got excess here, you got this bar, you got more excess here, and adios amigo. The greatest short of all time happened in these 2 days. So that's all I'm paying attention to. Balance and excess, very important, as Dalton would say. It's what we base profile trading and trading in general. That's what I base it off of, is where our excess is. All right, enough of that boring stuff. Actually, very important, not very boring, but I always start, I'm not telling you what to do, but I always start with my monthly, weekly, and daily to give me an idea on what we're doing in the market. It gives me a visual representation of where the context is within the market. That's why when I told you about this, to me, the context never changed. This is just continue buying, right? There's no sellers. Liquidation break here, came up, tried to sell it in this one, and there's nothing there, absolutely nothing there, and they just bought it up like crazy. I love this gap though. I love this weekly gap. It's like, it's giving me dreams, because it's for sure gonna be a great target when it comes and hits. Let me jump out of these. We'll get the old actual forefront up on what I look at on the day. Bring up the rest of this stuff here. I don't know where the other one is. Where is it? Sorry, one sec here. Like I said, just bear with me as I go through this. Trying to figure it out. Where the hell did I put that? Frick's sakes. Well, there was supposed to be another bar there. This is where my time and sales goes. I don't pay attention to any of this stuff here. That's why it's all squished. That's usually where my time and sales is. Alright, whatever. It's not there. It's not a big deal. So, profile. Let me just tell you about my screen real quick. This is just your 30 candles. Just gives me a good representation of what's going on with momentum buyers, where momentum buyers are thinking of buying, selling, etc. I don't really pay much attention to this at all, but it looks pretty, so it's there. You have your ask bid volume difference. I pay attention to that when I'm in a trade. Your tick, pay attention to that. This is the 1 minute with a 20, and your VWAP here. I also pay attention to this too, because this is a good representation of where momentum buyers are getting in and getting out. And I can see when the momentum buyers are just getting carried away. A lot of these marks will come at references, right? They'll come at references on the profile, which gives you an idea of obviously who's behind the market and who's running the market. Like I've said many times in the room, there's nothing more than momentum trading going on right now in my mind. I don't see anything else. I haven't seen big money in this for a while, probably since really the beginning of the year when it started coming up. So before we get to here, I just want to give you an idea on how I thought this day was predictable. As predictable as it was, obviously I wasn't online, so I didn't get to trade it. but it's very predictable day. Many trades that you could have taken, but really only had to take two in my mind, and they would have paid you pretty well. So how did we get here? I've showed you before. This is your balance area. This is the 17th, 18th, your 21st, 22nd. This is where we created all that balance. You had that big liquidation break here. All these singles in A print, or A period, sorry. This is the first liquidation break we had. Like I said, when this happened, this is going to strengthen the market. What this does is this eliminates old business and it brings in new business with new buyers. New buyers carries the market forward. This is not a sell. When people see this and they say, oh my goodness, the market's crashing, short, 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 that's not the right thing to do. You'll get hammered like they did, because this is old business ending. That's all this is. This is strengthening the market, bringing new buyers into the market. Some people called this a P. I didn't call this a P at all. I just thought this was gross. Nothing here told me this is a P profile. P profile is the exact opposite of this. I like to see a lot of singles and then start to build up here. That would be your short covering more. This, I guess you could represent as a P profile. I just personally don't. I'm not saying I'm right or I'm wrong or you're right or you're wrong. I'm just giving you my take on how I look at it. So yeah, as this happened, you had this break here. We still have this weak low down here that we haven't come back to. But we had the poor high as well up here. Lots of volume, one tick above, that's a poor high. One tick, or if the L wasn't there and it was just KL, another poor high. That's what you're looking for in poor highs. The weak low comes at an exact reference point, which is behind us there. Then we had our overnight, and then we had this guy. Oh shit, sorry, it's gonna, because of the way I have my screen, it's gonna go back and forth like that. I apologize. This was an interesting day too, because I thought maybe we were going to turn into a bit of a P here. We had that big stick and then we just kind of fiddled around up here, but then of course old M period came along and took out that poor high that was here and gave us that close. Bit of a spike, not really though. I didn't really count it, it's not enough points, doesn't really matter. So yeah, then we carried on, your overnight, blah, blah, blah. Overnight closed us high on a mini gap. The thing that was tricky about this day here, which may have caught some people, I think, off guard, is usually when a gap fills, you want to short the gap fill. This is where the gap was. I do gap from the open to the previous day's high. So this is just a tiny gap. It was 2 points exactly, really small. We sold off into it, and you got 4 ticks here, but there's absolutely nothing. They had no juice to even get to the overnight POC. That's here 14 wide. Obviously that's tricky though, right? Because when it comes in here, you want to put a trade on. You want to get short here because usually this accelerates. But the thing that makes it not so tricky is we had that big long liquidation break, and that big break is strengthening the market, and that's going to bring us up, and that's what it did. Just RAC, so I don't have them here next time. And then you saw in this period, this day was amazing. It just took off. It just went and went, filled in. This is filling in all those singles from that liquidation break that had to be filled. I said that prior to this week starting, that those single prints would be refilled. It happens all the time. So we had the break. Luckily, I got in here and I just rode her on up, let it do its thing. But this is just high emotions, right? This is these shorts getting stuck, these shorts getting stuck. Anybody who shorted below here, which is almost all of overnight, they all got stuck. And then as we were going through the day, I was pointing out, you could see they were stacking. So every point you had guys stacking. So you'd have 800 or 1,000 and another 1,000 and another 1,000. And what that is that somebody is stuck bad and they are trying to push the market back down. And when you're in a day like this, that's when you get a period like this in D. They just ate through it, ate through it, ate through it, ate through it. And then E and F is just, they lost control. They had to start liquidating. Uh, that liquidation happened up here. That's why you get this crazy looking P-shaped profile, is because the top of this is the short covering. But this short covering is from, which this is, let me tell you, this is a very strange profile to see on a trend day like it started. I don't think I've ever seen a profile like this on a trend day like we had this day. But this is liquidation. They would bring it down and buyers would take it back up, so on and so forth. There's just back and forth. That's why you had the crappy little rest of the day. Really, it was most of the day. 1, 2, 3. You had three and a half, 3 hours and 45 minutes of just junk, just boring junk. But again, no excess. Maybe like 4 ticks, and that's on that big of a day. That's nothing. Let's move on. Sorry if I say a lot too. I'm Canadian. That's how we roll. Then we open up into this day here. So now you have all this ugly profile. All this ugly profile has to be revisited. I had mentioned that in one of my write-ups. You had all these singles. All these singles are going to be revisited. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 distribution day. Just junk. It's gross. It's ugly. It doesn't look good. Overnight did nothing. Just balanced out. They tried to short it off. That's more just covering, in my opinion. Then you came into this day that we had, which was the 24th. And this was just a nice balance day. This is the day I broke down for everybody so you could see the auctions that were taking place. You had the auction up here, A, B, C, D. D opened up high, only got 3 ticks off the high and started to come back down. So when E opened here and only came to here, that's the end of the auction. You know right away. As soon as it comes back down into here, even if it gets below E again, that's a comfortable short, and you can just hold that. G never stopped one time framing, so even if you took this short and you brought it down here and it came back up here, there's no reason to get out because this never stopped one time framing. You get out right here, they just see you later. Sure, you lost all these points, and some guys will be like, that's crazy, but sometimes that's how you have to trade if you want to make the money. I didn't trade like that at all. I shorted this E period and I got out like here because I had came into this day with the mentality that I was only going to do quick short trades, and that's why I wanted to break this down the night before, because even I missed this, that this is such an easy trades to make, right? The auction's up, the auction's down, the auction's up, the auction's down. 4 auctions. You can make 4 trades all day and you would get paid. Even if you only took the middle value area of the auctions, you're making, you save 4 points a trade, 16 points for the day. Depending on your contract size, that's a good day. Even on one contract, it's a good day. So that's just a full balance day. Close is an inside day too. D period didn't take out the F high. It actually stopped 1 tick below, so this became a weak high because it came at a exact reference. So yeah, we had that little inside day. Then we open up overnight. Kind of ignore overnight. It's not that big of a deal. I just watch it to see if we're long or short. As you can see, we were long overnight. How I tell this is I just look at the settle, put a line there if it makes it easier for you. Where does the majority of the trade happen? It happens above the settle, which means overnight trade is long to what happened where we closed. That's as simple as it gets for that. Big wide POC. Don't forget, up here we had that poor high, right? So that's 1 poor high that's above us already, with crappy excess from that big trend day. So then we had this day. Nice day. Let me just squeeze this in a bit so you can see the whole thing. So yeah, we had this nice trend day. Open, they tried to sell it off. Again, I don't see much selling here. This is more liquidation from this big day that we had back here. It's wild though. These are some wild moves in these periods. Some good trading periods is what they are, but very difficult to trade because they're boom, boom, boom. The C period never broke below, but what it did is it never broke below the trend day that we had, but it filled in all those ugly single prints. It completed that profile. So that's what I was looking at more than anything, is this was the completion of all the weak references we had and all the distributions we had in that profile. D period opened, came back here. D period's a confirmation. I know some guys are trading the ORB. I have it set here. I've been looking at it. I haven't traded it yet, but it's there. D came in, to, I guess you could say, it came in here and went. I wouldn't have taken that, but the fact that D never came back and got here and just ripped, I think this is a pretty simple trade to take. Once D opens up here, it's not very realistic that it's going to open here and continue doing what A, B, and C did and drop all the way down here. It's more realistic that it's going to catch anybody who thought this was the big short here and drive the price up, and catch those shorts. That's exactly what it did. You had D and E push right up. Then you had the same thing we saw in the big trend day. It kind of just died out here. The whole afternoon was kind of, well, I guess it's my morning, some guys' afternoon. It just, there's nothing there. It just got boring. But you had this weak reference, FGE. That was for sure getting taken out. There's no way that was going to hold, not through this profile, not through the type of day it was. So you had the nice little break up here. Jay gave us a poor high. So now we had this weak high, which came one tick below, and now we have this poor high. So what's happening is poor highs can be a signal of longs getting too long in the market, and it's also a signal of sellers coming in at very exact reference points. These to me are more sellers coming in, trying to push the market down at exact reference points. Which sellers? Momentum traders. That's where they're jumping in. It worked before here in E. Let's try it again in J. There you go. It worked. So this break in M, it's kind of predictable, right? Hard to trade, but it's predictable. But this is as simple as it gets. If M breaks up here, I can't even remember how this day went. I think M came down and then came back up. Tried to get here. This failure here, my short was right here. As soon as it comes back through M, jump in. It's easy to go. I don't even think I took this trade actually. I think I watched M period because if I remember correctly, it traded stupid the whole time. But that's where the short should have been. Then I mean it's a little bit more of a risk trade. I mean you're gonna risk over 2 points in my opinion because you have to risk over that poor high, and shorting against the poor high is not easy to do, unless I mean you're brave. And I did. I shorted L period. I remember I shorted L period. But again, I jumped out here because I was a wuss and I don't like holding into M period. But M came down, N came down. That's predictable, right? You have E, F, G. It's right near where the open is. This is begging to be broken. And that's what happened. So it came back through, closed down here. This was a failed breakout from an inside bar. Remember I said this was an inside day? What happened here is we opened in that day, right on the edge, and it broke down. That break is a short every single time. And you can short it anywhere in here and just put your stop right here. If it comes back over, then just get out. It's not a big deal. It's just a failed breakout. Comes back in. There'll be another trade. But that's all this was. This failed to break out, failed to break out, failed to break out, and then came back in. What's strange is it never even got to the overnight high though, which was just, you could just tell that the sellers were stepping in constantly to try and keep it from doing that. And then we closed down here, which I thought was going to happen. I believe I said that in I period that we would close around 27. I was off obviously by a point, but it just didn't feel like the buyers were there to get us to break up higher. So yeah, we ended up closing lower than this inside bar that was here, this inside day. The other thing about this that I had showed was this just dipped its toes into our previous balance range. I think the previous balance range was up here, and this was the top of the value range here, and it got rejected each time. So it originally came into the balance range, was rejected up from the balance range, tried to come back in, got through the balance range, and it came close to breaking the value high for that week, and that was it. Never came back down again. That's a hard rejection there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look at one of the pinned messages in the ESF, or sorry, in the ES analysis section. I did like 3 write-ups on this exact thing that was going to happen. I traded off of that balance range this whole time. So now going forward again, talking about how Friday was more predictable. So now we had that big trend day. You had the sellers over here. Sorry, I hope you can see it. You had the sellers liquidate their positions here. And then you had this balance day, gave us the poor high, or the weak high, sorry. And then you came into here and you had the poor high. So now I have the weak high, poor high, all that junk that was from that trend day, that the trend day should have continued, and it just didn't have the balls, so it didn't happen. Overnight was interesting. Majority was short, right? They again take the settle. Jeez, take the settle. Where did it all trade? It all traded below, and we had this massive 22 wide prominent POC. This is getting revisited all the time, 8 out of 10 times. I think I even said to VWAP, I've been keeping track, and it's just over 80% of the time this is retraced if we open away from it. It's just, there's just too much has happened here. There's too much time spent here overnight for it not to be retraced. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it does, obviously, and so far 10% of the time it doesn't, but it's something I pay attention to. So when we opened A, I was short of this. I actually, for frick's sakes, sorry. I actually took a short here on this first jump up in W. I think this was 6:30 my time, and I actually shorted it here, and I took it back down, and then I got out here because that was the one and only trade I was allowed to make. And then it did its thing, and blah blah blah. We all know what happened next. We open up here. Let me break this apart here. So this is Friday now. So again, remember, we dipped our toes into the value high over here. We dipped our toes into the balance area. This whole area is still dipping your toes in, and we rejected out. Overnight tried to do the same thing, rejected out. You had this big wide 22 wide prominent POC from overnight. Shit, I'm just making sure I'm still recording. Yeah, okay. Big wide prominent POC. I knew this was going to be revisited. If I was trading, I would have shorted the open probably. I just immediately would have got in. That's only because of my confidence in this being revisited and me thinking that this jump here was just nonsense based off the GDP numbers or right before or whatever it was. As you can see, that would have worked perfect, or if you took the breakout from ORB back in, it would have worked pretty good too. But this is what confirmed what the day was going to bring. The AB low was the confirmation. You had your value, or your, oh shit, let me just, I can't do this, it's too big. One sec here, let me bring this up so I can show you guys so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Alright, let me just put that there, put this here, color out in blue. Okay, let me detach this, and bring this over here. So this is the profiles here, okay? This, yes, I know. I tried using this thing, first time I made videos, didn't work. So this is your balance high right here, okay? See this line? Remember I told you we dipped our toes in here? We never even came close to dipping our toes on Friday. It never happened. They didn't even get through it again. This is the value high. This is where the big rejection happened. Never got back down to here. Never got back down to here. It just, there was nothing there. There's no sellers entering the market in that balance area at all. It's all buyers. There's no sellers, and the sellers that are here are the ones that are getting absolutely roasted when it goes back up, which happens. I bet there's all kinds like that, which I actually quite enjoy them. But this is what I'm showing when I say that this was a predictable move. You had this big move up with this weird ending to it, where you could tell the people that were shorting here they had to cover here. They thought, oh my goodness, this trend's going to take off. And it just happened that I think the buyers lost steam, and they were just they were taking it up to cover their positions, giving you the P position or P profile, which is very odd. This whole profile still baffles me. And then you had the weak high here in D period from the next day, which was the inside day. You had the break from the inside day, which was the 25th. That left us with a poor high. Dipped our toes in the value area high, was rejected. Dipped our toes in in the balance area was rejected. Coming into Friday, as soon as we saw this, this is an automatic long. And I'll show you why. Let me just get rid of this here. Let me show you why. This is your balance area, in and around this area, 2018. You could have taken a short anywhere, or it's not short, don't take a short. You could have taken a long anywhere in here. When the volume started to break up stupid like this, I mean, that's not a great taper, but one of these doesn't make sense, and it's that one. It should have went 5, and then like maybe 200, then 84. That would be perfect. But they had no steam to get the overnight low, nothing. They couldn't even get to that balance area high. So when this started moving up, you could have missed this whole, if you didn't take this short, if you didn't take any trades in B, that's fine. You'd still be in good shape. You could have missed this entire part. When C opened here and D came back down, you saw momentum buyers step in just a couple ticks under the settle, which gave this, that's why I have this marked as a weak reference. You can take that with them. That's a momentum buy for me. If I wanted to get into that trade, I'll just jump on board with the momentum buyers and see what they do, right? Worst case scenario, it breaks and I get out. It's not a big deal. Your next reference would be see if they could push it below half back. Can't push it below half back, then again, you're still feeling comfortable. But you could have missed all this. But if you're putting this all together with what we had, the poor high, the weak high, I think I told, it wasn't until here I finally got away for a quick text message. But you could have gotten long in D period here. This was a failed break out of this absolute nothing C period. But right there is long, and you don't have to take it right there. You can take it when it comes back through D. As soon as it comes back through D high, get on it. Let it take you up. You'll know right away if it's going to break or not. So it did. It broke. D period broke. E period broke. Look where E high was. At this point now, look how close everything is. We all saw this, how close all these highs were. You had your E high, one tick off a poor high, which was a couple ticks off a weak high from the next day. That's telling me that momentum traders are just jumping and jumping and jumping, and it's not going to hold. That's not. There's too much here now. There's too many stops that have been put up here for this to hold. They're going to eventually crack it, and that's what they did. So they brought it down. F didn't stop one time framing. G period did nothing. Still one time framing up. Then you had the break in H period. But H period never even got back into the IB, right? Never got back to A period. I came back down, gave you a weak reference here in the profile. This is where I said to Joe was in J. I believe J came down here. Yeah, I texted you up and I said to him, as soon as this broke and there was nothing here, and again, they stepped in just a couple ticks above your open. So now we have momentum buyers stepping in 2 ticks below your settle for the previous day. Now you have momentum buyers stepping in 2 ticks below, or sorry, 2 ticks above your open. As soon as I saw this, I knew that was it, that they're about to ram the shorts. And I said that, I'm pretty sure I told you up, you watch, they're going to spike it off for the rest of the day. They're going to go for that all-time high. And now they look back at it and I see the low volume that was on Friday. It just makes it even more obvious. Low volume, month end, there's so much going on that as soon as this came back through, you could have taken it here. And if you didn't feel comfortable taking it in J, I would have got long in K. K not coming back to this area here. You have F, G, H, I, J, all opened within the same area. K never even dipped its toes into this area, which obviously was an important area for 1, 2, 2.5 hours, right? And it never even came back through here. So you could have got long here and just held on, because you knew once it got here, this weak high, this poor high, and the weak high that's like right up here, they're too close to each other. They're too close. There's too many stops within this range here, and look what it did. L grabbed it and ran. I didn't see any of this obviously firsthand. I'm just going based off of what I see now. So obviously it's easy for me to tell you this, but like I said, I did text VWAP. He sent me a picture, and I said to him, listen, As soon as I saw this repaired, and I saw where this came in, because this, you have to remember, this is momentum buyers buying here too, right? Buy. They're trying to step in where they think it's going to take off again. And when this failed, you had probably a couple stops in here that brought it to here, but even the stops weren't enough to stop the momentum buyers from buying it around where the open is. And there's just too much momentum there. Like, I like momentum traders because um, they take the market. They're the ones who will carry the market when there's no big money involved. You need them. That's who gives you the big moves, right? It's the emotional buyers. And that's all it was here. So yeah, I said to him here it would spike. Luckily, I looked smart and it actually did that. But yeah, L period again. M. Let me get rid of this stuff. So now we repaired those highs, right? We repaired those crappy highs. We had 3 straight days, weak high, poor high, weak high. It's just they're stepping in at the same spot. It's going to be taken out. What it ended up. Let me put this on here so I don't forget. What it gave us was a spike end of day. You have this one little single here that never got filled, which happens to be right at the poor high. Shocking. Um, so this is one thing I'll be looking at, right? This is a spike. A spike for everybody who doesn't know. It's a late day price move that doesn't have enough time in the day to be confirmed or rejected. So this is really important to me coming into not Sunday night, coming into Monday. That's pretty much all I'll be watching is the spike. I know that I have this week reference here, this week reference here. This is the balance area here. Then you get your value high. It was like, I don't know, somewhere in here. Then I have another weak high. Like this is all these lines here are weakness, weak, weak, or this is either weak or poor low, weak or poor low, weak or poor low, weak references, weak buy, weak buy, weak buy, weak buys, weak buys. So it's just momentum's taking us up right now. It's going to come back down. It's not coming back down immediately. Like we need to get up. We need to get real excess like this, but we need to get it an E, F, or G period in my mind. There's our all-time high. But I mean, we're not even 5 points away. I think we're actually exactly 5 points. We're gonna get there. To think that this market's not gonna get to here before the big sell-off is just, it's craziness. It's not gonna happen. We're too close. This is a very emotional area that we want to get to, and it's gonna happen. Like I said, what I'll be looking for is rejection from this spike. So maybe it doesn't happen on Monday. It might not even happen next week. We might bounce back down here, balance out that big trend day that we had. Maybe see if we can get back into these areas again. But this is what's important. The reason this is important is this is your spike. So we want to see if we get price acceptance in the spike. If we find acceptance in the spike, if we find rejection from the spike, which would bring us lower, or if we find a breakout from the spike, which would again reject this area of price action and telling us we need to go higher. So that's pretty much all I'll be taking into Monday. I know where we're at here. One time framing, 1-2 days. It's not huge. We had this big spike, which was kind of predictable, like I said, in my mind. I don't pay much attention to any of this volume up here. It's month end. They had to offload whatever they had to offload. It's not a big deal. But what I'm looking for going into this next week is this area up here. This is all I'm watching. I would love to see us break above this spike and get a nice little trend day up here until like EF, somewhere in this area. Leave like, I don't know, actually I would like that to probably be higher, maybe in the 60 range. Leave some decent excess. And if we leave decent excess up here in an earlier period, not A, B, C, or D, E, F, or G period, turn periods. If we leave excess like that, big excess, like 4 or 5 points is what I'm looking for. I mean 3.5 would be fine too, but you'll see it. If you see the excess, you'll know what I'm talking about. One thing to keep in mind though, if we break above our all-time high, if you get anywhere in this range from 70 to 60, you know that, for frick's sakes, here's the reset. you know that this number right here is within range. 3,000 is a big number, a very big number. It's never been seen before, and it's a big, big number. So even if we're 40, 45, 50 points away, it'd be hard to think that we're not going to melt up to 3,000. I think I can almost feel people wanting to bring it there just to say, oh my goodness, the market was at 3,000. Like, it's a big deal, right? But yeah, hopefully you don't go crazy listening to me say 50 million times in this video. It's, like I said, it's the first of many attempts. The first one I'll actually post, because honestly it's just only get better at doing this as I go. Hopefully it's not too confusing either, because I know I jump around a lot. But yeah, like I said, Friday was a predictable day. We know what references we have below us. It's a bunch of junk. There's no strong money. It's just, weak guys. Weak. I mean, when you say momentum trader, you got to remember, momentum traders, some of them have millions of dollars in their bank accounts. These guys, they're not poor, dumb money. They're just weaker hands than the guys that have billions of dollars in their bank accounts that are moving the market slowly and gently, building positions and getting out of positions. They can still, momentum traders are probably the majority of the traders that trade the ES. So you think about how much money that is combined. That's why we get these crazy days. So keep that in mind. But yeah, hopefully this is helpful. If you have any questions at all, just let me know. Again, sorry for saying all the time. At least I didn't say like a normal Canadian. We say too sometimes. But yeah, we'll see you guys Sunday night. Hope this is helpful. Okay, bye bye.